So could you follow up and tell us then what will be some of the main discussion between the US and the Latin American and Caribbean region about Black Lives Matter movement leader, because yes, we are horrified of what we are seeing daily on the news, what happening to Black men, especially in the US. But I mean, it might not be so blatant in Latin America, but we still have these things happening. So what would you say as it relates to Latin America?
That's a great question. Okay, so first, I'd love to give a shout out to Pamela Cunningham. She is an activist and she spearheads the Costa Rica Afro movement, which was the first vocal movement with sort of the George Floyd protests and uprisings in the United States that held a virtual march here in Costa Rica that began to disseminate information on their website, on Instagram. Pamela has been unrelenting with interviews and just sharing information because, and I'll start with Costa Rica, there is this idea that racism doesn't exist there. So we're observers looking out. And it's really interesting because sort of people, Afro-Costa Ricans have shown up to go, wait a minute, hold on, every single day. Just because we're in Costa Rica does not exclude us from inherently entrenched racism, which is all of Latin America. How can it not? That came with the colonial mission. It was in the water. And so we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of years of Eurocentric ideas around race and class and gender that's deeply entrenched with religion, with rituals and practice. Even it's involved with the way we understand time. And so, and history is always written by the winner. And so what perspectives are presented in education, et cetera, et cetera. But so one of the things that I am thinking about right now are the conversations that are happening in Latin America or happening amongst Afro-Latinos, because we're talking about representation, right? So, I know that probably, I think it was a week and a half ago, there were 5 Afro-Colombian young people, youth, who were murdered. Where are the stories, right? If we even take a look at Brazil, the numbers are, the way that Black youth are policed and criminalized in Brazil. So there is we cannot compare suffering, right? But we understand the way that media works, right? And what story and what narrative gets prioritized. Obviously, that's the US media that gets disseminated most. And it makes people forget that they need to look inside of their own countries and figure out the narratives of racism in their own countries, because guess what? It's happening right there. A death is a death is a death. Whether it's on a video, it's a death. And so where is the accountability? So I think the conversations that are happening and the movements and the protests in the streets around the globe, right, are happening because people have experienced that same kind of pain and suffering because they are attached to the same thing, brown and Black skins. That's what they're attached to. So your Black experience, it has nuances, but you can go to Paris, you can go to South Africa, you can go to Jamaica, Costa Rica, or Brooklyn. In a Black body, you have to understand certain cues. It doesn't matter how much money you have. You have to be able to understand how to navigate the globe in your body in ways that nobody else has to learn, because your body has been equated to a criminal space. And imagine being a parent having to teach your child that. It is devastating, right? It is unbelievable that we still get to laugh and love and celebrate and do all these things. And forget about talking about a pandemic, right? And all the loss that's gone on with that. But I think that the conversations that need to happen in Latin America, one, we have to talk about representation. We have to get over this tokenism thing, right? So it's like the 2 Black people who are always called all the time and they sort of toe the middle line. And it's like, there's a whole room of other people who have different perspectives who should be invited to the table, but they're the same two Black people who are always called upon. And in many ways, they're safe, right? They're not asking the hard questions, which is about accountability, which is the idea of, I think in Latin America more than anything else, it's the idea of microaggressions, right? So you on Friday, you have a hairstyle, and then on Monday, you have a different hairstyle, and all of a sudden everybody wants to touch you. This is not a zoo. We don't even have zoos in Costa Rica. You are not a pet. There's no one of us whose mother trained us to go and touch somebody else's body. We are not trained that way. There's no way. It is not in the way we are brought up. You know the idea of brought up, see? We are not brought up that way. So the fact that other people feel that they always have the access to our bodies, particularly for Black women, is very, very, it's dangerous, but it happens all the time. Right? And so we need to think about that idea of, you know, what in these countries in Latin America, one, how are Black and brown people represented, right? What are the microaggressions that happen every day that cause mental distress? It is distressful to also think, oh gosh, I changed my hairstyle, and so people are going to talk to me, and now I have to explain why my hair is straight or shorter, or why I have braids, and today why I have to explain that? I have to go to my job and do the work I need to do. It's my choice. So, and if my neighbor next door decides I'm having purple hair, no one's going to touch her purple hair, right? But everybody wants to come and put their dirty hands in my clean hair. Okay. So I think that there's that, and obviously tokenism. But for me as an educator, I really believe that the conversations that need to happen in Latin America, not necessarily the Caribbean so much, but yes, in some places, but specifically in Latin America, and thinking about Black Lives Matter and being in allyship or in solidarity, it's really about changing the history, right? And changing education from the ground, from kindergarten, right? Not making it just like, okay, in August in Costa Rica, we're going to learn about Black people. Hello, Black people live 11 months for the rest of the year too, right? We're learning about civica and sociales and all that all the year round. Why is it that it's only like a day or a month that these are citizens in your country that have an incredible legacy, right? They have an incredible legacy. You could not have the economy of your country without Black labor because you would have no railroad. You would have no bananas. Hello, right? So there is a whole history that people are constantly silenced out of and marginalized. And it actually does the country, it hurts the country, right? Because everybody should have that knowledge. It's not just Black people should learn about Black history. We already know that stuff our grandmothers told us. We know that stuff. And we know their stuff too, the general European narrative. But how about everybody learns and they also learn how to ask questions? I think that's really important, right? Ask more questions. Don't take in everything as it's being spoon-fed for you, right? So for me, education in terms of commitment, and not just, okay, we're going to invest in having like, you know, charlas with like workshops with, you know, a dancer and a musician and, you know, or maybe we will do a sports day. Those are things that are fine, right? And I'm not saying that we do not have Black excellence in those spaces, but we also have Black excellence in science and in math and in so many other spaces. And Black bodies have been put basically into sports or entertainment. Those are the safe spaces in which those bodies can be navigated, right? And made the most money off of, because they're even the richest person, Mr. LeBron James in basketball, doesn't make as much as the people who own his team, right? And so we need to always take that step back. So in terms of Latin America, I think that those are some of the conversations around revisiting history, rewriting education, a real commitment to not having tokenism, representation, whatever the percentage of, let's say Costa Rica has what, 12% Afro-Costa Ricans, Afro-descendants, 12 to 15, then in every single public setting, government or whatever, there has to be that percentage represented. So it's not just one day, I'm walking on the street and some kid is like, wow, yes, I cannot be the anomaly. You know what I'm saying? I cannot be the person some kid is afraid of because they've never seen a Black person before, when we have a large percentage of them in the country. And I think that applies throughout Latin America. There's no place in Latin America, even though they've tried in Argentina, there's no place in Latin America where there is not some population of Afro descendants.
Thank you so much. I think you're echoing what the most of us have been saying for a very long time, generation before me. And, we still voicing that, we are tired of the small representation, and we are tired of being invisible within the educational system. So, but we have to continue the struggle. It's not that we are not saying it. So hopefully at some point, we have to continue. Our ancestors, they did what they have to do so that we can be conversing about this today. So we have to continue the discussion.
Aho, iaho, aho, iaho. Somos voces de la historia, sangre, tinta y papel. Somos voces de la historia, mis ancestros, su saber, mis ancestros, su saber, mis ancestros, su saber. Aho, iaho, aho, iaho.